Your biography, your memoir, just got out last year, just like before COVID hit.
Yes.
So the title in English is I Am C-3PO, The Inside Story. And the French version that just now is available in North America, I got the copy right here, like you. It's called Je suis C-3PO, Les souvenirs ne s'effacent pas, which is like a reference to the fact that C-3PO memories can't, it's been wiped out. Do you have an oversight on the French title, or is it something that the editor do?
It wasn't my title.
Wasn't your title, yeah.
No, I wanted to call it something different. And the publisher said, nobody will understand your title. To me, it was obvious, but they said only a true Star Wars fan would know. And since this book is not just aimed at Star Wars fans, but aimed at anybody who listens to people talking about their life, because it may in some ways reflect what is going on in the reader's life. It's a general growing up, going through an experience over 43 years and more. So they wanted a more general title. And that one was Telling the Odds. Now, many people, do you know what that means?
I don't know the French translation, but I know it's a reference to something that C-3PO does during the movies.
He does, but particularly there is a moment in episode 5 where he is explaining to Han Solo the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field are approximately 3,721. And Solo said, never tell me the odds.
Yeah.
And so now I'm telling the odds. And it's one of the most quoted lines in the English language. Ne jamais dit something les chances.
Don't ever tell me the chances.
Exactly. Yeah. So they were right. So I accepted I am C-3PO because, and les mémoires ne se fassent pas, they expect.
Doesn't get away.
Because in some ways, and then people were writing and saying, are you referencing Mr. Spock's book? I am Spock. I'm not Spock or something. No, I wasn't at all. I've never read it.
Did you know the book existed before titling the? No.
I'm afraid to upset all the Trekkies out there. One science fiction thing in my life is quite enough. So I'm not a Star Trek fan. I'm sure they're lovely films, but I envy Data in his. Well, actually, I don't.
Did you envy him, really?
Well, that kind of makeup is pretty gross by the end of a day's filming, frankly. So perhaps I don't. No.
When you watch like a play or listen to an album or movies, there's some themes that comes up to the surface, like bubbles. There are recurring themes, and one of the recurring themes I had in my mind while reading your book, and I want you to hear you on this, was about one of the main themes is isolation, like physical isolation and social isolation. Do you think it's right?
Yes, I do, and you're quite right to pick up on it. And one of the lovely things in the book is that I managed to find all sorts of photographs and so on, and in the attic. And one of them is of that first painting,
the first sketch.
Yeah, and it's in the book, and it still sort of speaks to me today, because what you have when you look at it is this rather bereft, almost like an orphan coming towards you, or a stray animal, a cat or a dog, saying, help me, I want to be with you. Because the background is so lonely. All right, there's the little box at his side, that's R2-D2 eventually. But there's something bereft on this planet. And it clicked straight away. Yeah,
you talk about it on your book.
Yeah, and it's a true story. Other paintings like the Mona Lisa doesn't do anything for me at all. People revere it and adore it. I don't know why. Show me a picture of 3PO, and here I am 43 years later, and still connected with him.
The character kind of annoyed. Yes, go ahead.
But also, you're quite right to pick up, because once we began filming, I hadn't really, I tried on the costume for maybe 10 minutes in the studio in London, but out in the desert was the first time. And very quickly I realized how cut off I was from people around me who couldn't look straight at me really. And I couldn't look at them unless I pointed my head straight at them. And I was encased, and certainly on the first day I write about that, I was locked inside this thing for the whole day. And that was really, really difficult. And then, of course, I talk about, in a way, the loneliness of having my best friend, R2D2, who was this silent object,
Yes.
never spoke to me. So the combination of all these things, yes, I think in a way it helped the performance, frankly. It was uncomfortable. I got used to it. But I think it spoke to the way he turned out. But I'm glad you pick up on it.
Do you think there's also isolation in the way you felt that you were treated after the first movie was released?
Isolation, rejection, abandonment, nullification. I didn't exist.
Yeah.
That was an extremely difficult time. And I talk about it quite honestly because it hurt me a lot. And if I think about it, it hurts today. Obviously, time has helped. But in writing about those chapters, I became quite upset because they're obviously very deep-seated, and I don't bring to the surface all the time. But also, writing about them maybe helps people who are reading think about times they've been hurt, they've been neglected, and whatever, and they have got through them, because that's the important thing, to survive, to get up again, to carry on.
Do you feel that now you've been able to incorporate this experience into your life? Did you move on from it?
Oh yes, it certainly moved on and up. And what I was very pleased to find when I finally put the book together, because as you know, it's written in segments, which, all right, they're structured around 11 Star Wars films that I've been in, the trilogy and Rogue One, great experience, brief, and then Solo, just for fun. So 11 movies form the framework of the book, but on that I can hang various other experiences and comment and so on. And putting it together, when I finally chose the order in which they would go, I realized, rereading it again, that I had made a journey, that I'd been on a journey, and never noticed, actually, until I sat back to look at it all and thought, but fortunately, there's a curve in the journey.
Yeah.
It starts quite high and then immediately drops down and then climbs over the years. So it is the fact that I stuck with it. And I stuck with it. Why? Because it was a job. It was a paid job. But the real reason why I did the second film was that I really liked the character. I like C-3PO. I wanted to look after him. So that meant me being in the movie. He can't be there without me.
That's one of the things I picked up when I read the book. I felt like you were very protective of him. There's an anecdote. I don't want to spoil it for the people that didn't read the book yet, but there's anecdotes where you go into a museum and you try to arrange him, but still, when you receive script from the movies and you participate in all those recording sessions, there's very I feel like you're like his guardian in a way. And did you notice happening this to you, or this came like subconsciously, or?
I think it happened subconsciously and then absolutely practically, because I become aware. And, last week I was recording something in a studio, and in the end, I stopped saying, is it all right? This is what I have rewritten. Because they kept saying, oh, yeah, that's good. So I just didn't even tell them what I was recording. But I have now said, and in fact, I think I've explained to some people in the film, including J.J. Abrams, that I am 3PO's guardian on this planet. There's nobody else speaks for him but me, so, and by employing me to do something, you have a consistency of his character, because I know mostly I know what he wouldn't say, because you'd be surprised what script writers come up with. You go, no, that's so out of character. And if it's out of character, then you begin to spoil what the audience has been with all these years, right from 1977. They know it. They want 3PO to be the same quirky character, different situations, that changes his circumstances. But they don't want him to do something totally off-piste. Unless it's totally deliberate, wonderful things like the Lego Star Wars Chronicles. He's in character, but in such wacky situations that you can laugh at them, and the holiday special and so on like that. You can have a different view because they are beloved stories.
Yeah. I just want to add a note right here, because in the book you talked about the reaction that C-3PO got when he got off from the Falcon, the Lego movie from Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, and the people cheered. I had seen the movie 2 times in theaters for my job and just for recreation purposes, and that reaction happened every time. And I remember the first time, I don't know why I laughed out loud. I was so happy to see him. And there's like something like ambivalent about the situation. There's a party in the Falcon. There's some kind of side quest going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
The fact that we see him more than the other characters at that exact moment is the perfect timing.
And it was the timing. And that's, back in the original film, I didn't understand about editing, and we would shoot scenes that I thought were useless. But of course, the editor took a few seconds from here and a few seconds from that clip and so on. And often it's the editor's timing to choose the scene. And then in my case, 3PO's timing of, can't remember the lines now, but it combined in a good movie, it combines. And I think the Lego movie was good. And I'm delighted you tell me that there is a little cheer every time you sing. I was very surprised and very happy.
Yeah. You're talking about the good side of your experience with the Star Wars franchise and the bad side, and you don't go into details, and I appreciate that. I didn't want to read a book about anecdote. I didn't get along with this person. That kind of stuff doesn't get. I don't like that. But I was wondering, while you were writing it, if there were any apprehension from the reaction that you maybe will get from the fans or the other castmates. Was it something in the back of your mind? But it's a conscious decision. You decided not to go into the details and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And it was a conscious decision. There are things I have not said because, how can I put it? I became aware, once you start writing, and I will never do it again.
It's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And the publisher had never done a book like mine, so they had no idea how to help me. And so I was, talk about isolation.
Mm-hmm. Again. It's a team.
I kept asking for help and nothing came back, so I just got on and did it. And but when I was writing, I became conscious of seeing headlines in the paper from an actress, an actor, whatever, or somebody who had just written a book, and they would be saying, they would make these headlines out of something, I was attacked by so-and-so or whatever. And I think, well, why you're saying this now to sell the book? Mm-hmm. And it's very unattractive, and I don't like it. And so I chose not to do that. I'm not saying there were huge revelations that I missed out, but in good taste. I didn't want, I've been negative about one or two things in a very honest way, but I'm not going into real details about it because it's unnecessary, it's bad taste.
And what kind of feedback did you get from the readership or the other castmates from the book? Is it a positive one, or do you have any comments from?
I read a review. Somebody sent me a review that said this is a dreadful book written by an amateur who talks about himself all the time. It made me laugh so much. It's a biography.
It's a biography, man.
Okay. The reviews have been very, very nice. I think anybody who does anything wants to go back and fix it later, like George with the things. That's not going to happen. People have liked it, and the fact that it's been now translated from English first in Spanish and in Japanese, and now in French, I think shortly in Korean. And the interesting thing about the French translation, which is the only language I can almost read, is it's so beautifully eloquent. It's not word for word translation as I would do as a poor schoolboy. The translator has taken what I mean and put it in French. Yeah. And it's beautiful. And I'm actually learning French from reading the English, from knowing the English and thinking, that's how French people would say it.
That's one of the things I usually read books in the original language if I can. This is the French version that was available in Quebec, and I wasn't put off by it in any way. I think it reads really easily, and it contains a lot of great anecdotes. It's not all negative. I just want to make sure to people at home that
absolutely not.
Yeah.
But most people in their life suffer negative experiences.
Sure.
And you have to, if you're being honest about things, you have to put the good and the bad and the ugly and the boring and the exciting and the moving and the great and the sad, and it's all there. But when you think that the outcome is that I'm able to still play this role, still want to play this role, I don't have to, but to still be enjoying the character. But also, and here's the thing, I didn't realize until I finished rereading it how much I talk about the fans. And and I say that the fan, I think the French is amateur.
Which is not a great translation.
It's what?
It's not a great translation. Amateur is amateurish, but it's a direct translation, but I think it lost a sense of the word. Even fans in English, I don't think it's a great word.
I don't like the word fan, because it implies crazy, and that's not it. Most of the fans I write, as I say in the book, that they're normal people who like very much what I and the other people to do the film did. And I've had experiences now around the world, literally around the world, of people who've taken the chance to come and talk to me about an experience they had when I wasn't present. They watched the film. I wasn't there when they could go, yay, that's good. And because of them, we made Star Wars, made 9 films plus the others, because people liked it. Because people forget that back in the day, there was no publicity for Star Wars. There were a few trailers, which I can remember. Explosion. But it was the first audience who happened to go to the theatre, who ran out and got their friends, ran back in again, and so it evolved. So it is the fans or the audience who caused this phenomenon.
The movie business wasn't what it is now, and even the merchandise thing, the action figures, stuff like that wasn't like a business model. Star Wars invented that in some ways. And did you remember specifically when you noticed that, okay, this is something huge? There's a buzz around it, and I never seen this before. It's overwhelming.
Well, I talk in the book about the first time the film had opened. Nobody told me.
That is crazy stuff.
That I read about it on the front of a magazine, and I thought, wow, that silly job I had has turned into something big. And then, yes, the merchandise started to happen, and it's an indication of the industry at the time that there was very, very, very little merchandise available, because nobody thought it was worth doing. Immediately, of course, they rolled it out through Kenner and so on, but there was a big delay in that happening. That then, next time they were prepared, and people want some of that merchandise to elongate the experience of being in the theatre, and to recreate it at home and so on, have souvenirs.
So from the thing while I was reading the book, I was thinking about all the time I've seen you in the world of C-3PO. I heard you in series like Clone Wars, Rebels. You talked about the Lego movie, video games. You were in specials. You went to special event, museum, concert. From all the actors or participated in that huge franchise that is Star Wars now, I think you were the one that was involved in it. But the start, like we talked earlier, was somewhat a letdown, and I was owing, the isolation part. I was wondering, was it a way to, I don't know how to say it in English, but
c'est en français.
Pallier à à la mauvaise expérience, like trying to reverse the first bad experience. I am here. I wasn't part of this thing, and I will show you that I can be in everything you throw at me. Does it make sense?
It's certainly ironic that for somebody who was completely negated from that first film experience and afterwards, and I'm trying to think when it became part of, all right, the next film came up, and I nearly didn't do it, because why would I want to repeat such a negative experience, either filming and after its debut? And then, of course, I realized I liked 3PO and I wanted to look after him. But at some point, it became clear that I had a skill, possibly like 3PO, in presenting things, of being a bridge between the film and a live audience and so on. And that of course, culminated in the way that I start the book, which is talking about the experience of Star Wars in concert, which we performed in Montreal and in Toronto and many other places around the world. And that was a tremendous experience of meeting the thousands of fans every night, adoring memories of the film on screen, but also absolutely adoring John Williams' music and adoring the story as I narrated it, a cut down version that even I could understand.
So in the book, you talked about those experiences, those anecdotes. We talked about filming anecdotes. Some like shooting were easier than others. Some were more, there was more tension than others. What do you think can make a good filming experience, to create a good bond between the cast members? Because I'm sure you've learned it from now. I mean, you've played in all the movies. You've seen what are the great ingredients to a great filming, symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I would say that it starts off with having, who does it start off? It's difficult because George Lucas was there at the beginning and had such a strong, strong idea, to put it mildly, that one was sort of confident of the basics that were happening. Then you come to the director, because he only directed one film. He doesn't enjoy directing, really, or he didn't back then. And then you come down to the personalities of the director and of the producer. And some people don't realize that the producer is almost like the daddy of the whole thing. He's making sure everything's in place at the time and that everybody feels comfortable. Some people find it easier to do that job than others. There's more to it than just making sure that somebody's bought a camera and some film and a light, because people are involved. And in many ways, the film industry can be quite unkind. It's a business that costs thousands, in a big film, thousands of pounds every minute in the studio. You have hundreds of people working. If something delays it, that's hundreds of people's time wasted, And a simple example, and it's not unique by any means, is when I found out, because I knew that they were not going to use Ray Park's voice as the voice of Darth Maul. It was brilliant as the combat, doing the fight, but they wanted a different voice, and they employed somebody, very, very good actor, Peter Serafinovich. But nobody told Ray. And he would have gone to the theatre and gone, wait a minute, that's not my voice.
That's my voice. No.
And I thought it was just mean. I mean, not mean, it was thoughtless. And that's an example, small one. So I told him, get over it. You're brilliant at the fights. They changed the voice. There are experiences I've had where it's clear people have their mind on other things. Fair enough. They could be nicer sometimes. Yeah. So I've had both experiences, and I'm not the only actor to feel that.
But you talk in the book, and the title in French for that particular chapter is Joy, Joie. And you talked about the fact that you talked about J.J. Abrams. You have very kind words for him. And you said in French, it's not a direct translation, but that he made you love making movies, which can be a great experience. So what was different from Abrams' approach from the other directors, or what was better from his approach.
There is this kind of silly phrase, kind of that somebody is a director's actor. It's like the coy phrase that actors trot out when they're trying to be nice about something. He is very communicative with all the cast. He understands humanity very clearly.
Yeah.
He's like a highly intelligent child. He's so full of enthusiasm. His energy just communicates itself. His kindness is endless. So my experience of working with him and other people would agree. He just makes it easy to relax and do stuff that may be wrong. And, you know, when you've done the 14th take, because he wants to have it just, it's bad enough if you're wearing normal clothes, but in 3PO's costume, you do 14 takes or something. That's enough.
That's torture.
And he always used to say after every take, "That's terrific, that's really good. Let's do it again." And it's like, so the all personnel, changes on these things, and the tensions are quite high because again, it's quite an expensive process on a big film. But you want, as a director and a producer, you want those actors to be relaxed and to feel they can fail and make a fool of themselves and do it again. And you get the best out of them. Shouting at people or making them feel uncomfortable is just stupid, arrogant, and cruel. And there are people in the industry who get off on a kind of power play.
There's another thing I was surprised to learn while reading a book is how much C-3PO, which is a great character from pop culture, is a death trap. I mean, while I was reading it, I was like surprised that you didn't get more hurt or that you didn't get like physically ill from the chemicals, from everything that you have to suffer. Are you surprised from this fact that after reading your book, I was like, this man like got tortured like during at least 10 films?
Well, you'll remember that the original actor in The Wizard of Oz playing the Tin Man had to resign because he was affected by the chemicals in silver makeup, by the paint.
Yeah.
In this case, it was only fiberglass, which is disgusting. It's the little fragments of you just itch. Yes, terrible. Yeah. But that was it. I did end up with some pinched and bruised, but I am amazed the number of times I've fallen over that I haven't actually really. And I think I've learned in some ways relax like a stunt person does when they fall. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised.
You could have broken your neck so many times, you know?
Yeah, I didn't. Thank you for, I will say at this point, thank you for knowing what you're talking about.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. I'm just so excited to be able to talk to you. I'm not a fast reader, you know, and I sit down with a book. I did 2 readings and I devoured it. And not just because I was going to talk to you. I was very surprised about the kind of anecdotes and the human aspect of it. That's what touched me the most. You were talking about, you know, that's the thing that's strange for me. And for people, maybe when they're going to read the book, they want to learn. You can be on the biggest franchise from pulp culture. This is one of the biggest ever. You know, can transcend cinema now. It's everywhere. But you can feel lonely in it. And I think there's a lesson there to be learned. That's what's touched me the most.
I think it's inherent in something so big. And when one is a small part of it and there are bigger forces around you, I think it's quite easy to feel lonely.
Yeah.
Certainly in my case it was. And then, of course, paradoxically, at other times, as with you have a big opening event, as for episode 9, for instance, and you can be exhausted by being with people and talking to people, and so you can have overload. So there must be a fine balance somewhere. I don't know.
You talk about when the first movie came out, and there was a great reaction from the public, and we talked about the way this movie was revolutionary for the industry and everything that's connected to it. And in a way, you weren't part of the promotional, promotional campaign for promoting the movie. Your name wasn't attached to this.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford was, Carrie Fisher was, Mark Hamill was, certainly was. You were presented as C-3PO, and you felt like this note came from Lucasfilm itself. Do you know if it was something official they made, or did you ever learn about the truth about that?
I think it was George and the producer, Gary Kurtz, who's dead now, and Fox, and they just, going back to Ray Park's voice, they didn't care what I thought. They didn't care about my feelings at all. Yeah. They just wanted people to believe in the magic of their mechanism, literally, their mechanical figure. And, that was at the beginning, and we've moved on from that. But, yeah, it wasn't a nice way to proceed. And it's given me a lot. And in a way, it somehow made me remote from the movies, that I don't particularly... I watch them out of a sense of duty or homework or whatever, but it certainly removed a sense of warmth that I might have had, which is a shame, because that first movie was actually my favorite to watch.
Okay.
So kind of innocent, whatever. But I couldn't bear to talk about it. My friends wanted to talk about it. It must be great, etc. And no, I didn't want to talk about it because I was made to feel ashamed in some ways, But those days are gone. It's part of my history.
You talked about
at the same time. I didn't want to talk about it, and I'm conscious today of not wanting to spoil in the minds of the audience, the minds of the readers today, the minds of the listeners. I don't want to spoil their memories of something that was often seminal, as I talk about in the book, seminal in their family towards entertainment, their bonding, particularly with their father and so on over the story. It was a very important common experience, and my private experience shouldn't taint what they felt or feel about it.
Was it in the back of your mind while writing the book? That kind of apprehension to maybe spoil the franchise for some people?
Yeah, because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
That wasn't the point of it. I was just saying how it was for me at a time when everybody else was at the party. And I think I wouldn't be alone in life experiences to have felt in some, as readers may feel, yes, I remember being left on one side.
Yeah.
At school, when somebody was picking the football team, you choose one, he chooses one,
that was the last.
So was I.
Oh yeah, I resent those memories. I don't know. I'm nearly 40. I think about it sometimes.
There you go. You resent those memories. You remember them.
Yeah,
and it's formed part of your character and your awareness and so on. Yeah. There's nothing wrong or shameful in that.
You have I feel like you have a lot to say. I mean, I've seen you in interviews for Good Morning America and stuff you did far and right, and you. Is it again a reaction from the beginning of this voyage with the franchise? The fact that you have so much to say and talk about the franchise and everything is like in between. I feel like at the beginning you didn't have what you needed, and now it's going to be all over. I'm going to say what I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I would watch interviews of the other actors and think, well, I could do better than that. Why didn't they ask me? It used to annoy. I used to hear stories of how annoyed the actors would be, the human stars, when people would say, "So, how does it feel to be upstaged by a couple of robots?"
Oh yeah,
that people wanted to talk about preview and so on, and I think some of them got a bit
angry about it. But they are the heroes of the movie. For me, R2-D2 and C-3PO are the real heroes. Even C-3PO for me is like kind of dramatic hero. Nobody listened to him, but most of the time he's right.
And that reflects normal human condition, normal human experience. Nobody listens to me on a daily basis. If the tax authorities don't care what I think. I follow the law, but I don't make the laws. We have Her Majesty the Queen, but what she does, she doesn't care what I'm doing. You know, other people are imposing rules on us all the time, and they have to. You know, we all drive on one side of the road because it's safer, and we're grateful. Nobody asked me which side of the road that should be. So we are all somewhat. We're bumbling along as best we may, and that was George's original thesis, like the two characters from The Hidden Fortress, like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. There's been plenty of stories of people who are blown by events that I can't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, it's fine. But here you have quintessentialized in the movies two characters who are put upon by everything. And you have one who vocalizes his discomfort on behalf of the audience.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think sometimes C-3PO is the voice of the audience. It was for me sometimes, actually, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And because he's a caricature, if you like, you can exaggerate his feelings. And the script did this. I took the script and carried it further and, you know, became increased. But you can get away with more because it's a form of pantomime, if you will, which is an exaggerated form of theatre. But the feelings he expresses, and that there is a story, I think, in the book where a child or somebody who was a child at the time, who I met fairly recently, said to me that as a child, he would watch the film on TV hiding behind the furniture. So he would peek out, and if something bad was going to happen, he would hide behind the sofa. But it helped him that it was okay to be afraid because 3PO was afraid. The gold man. Okay, I'm afraid. And that helped this child, who became an adult, who remembered this to cope with fear. And one of the thesis of art and theatre and drama is to have this cathartic experience without getting hurt.
Sure.
You can experience hurt and sadness, but it's theatrical, but it helps you.
There's a movie in Quebec. It's an old movie. I've seen it in university a bunch of years back. It's called The Clandestine. And it's about stories of like immigrants who come to North America and Canada in this big container. And in the container, they're stuck. And there's a big dynamic. There's the guy who brought all the food and the water and people that didn't bring enough for the voyage. And of course, they're stuck in it. And the main character was like the antagonist. The director came to university back then, and he said that people on the set didn't talk to him. They hated the guy, but he was the sweetest guy ever. He wasn't a regular actor, but the character was such an, excuse me, my English, it was such an asshole that people naturally on the set didn't want to talk to him. I don't know where he came from, but that dynamic was there. And while I was reading the book, I was thinking, maybe it's what happened to Mr. Daniels. Maybe in some way, the dynamic with some cast members was influenced by his character, maybe on a subconscious level. I don't know, but I don't know.
The one I can, not really, because, you know, I got on, we all got on. Yeah. But certainly working with Harrison Ford on the second film, and I was sad that R2-D2 had gone off somewhere else. But suddenly I was making a new dynamic with Harrison, which was wonderful because he was just great. Irritated, and that was a dramatic effect, and was great to play off because 3PO paradoxically came out of his shell and was really quite sort of irritated by Han Solo and so on. That I enjoyed very much because 3PO very much depends on the circumstances he's put in. You know, his machine. So you need to come up with these new ideas. And what I loved in the last film, The Rise of Skywalker, was that the same dynamic, slightly in a different way, was in the script and happened on the set with Oscar Isaac, who played him. Absolutely adorable experience because he met, and a lot of it's been cut out of the movie, sadly, really sadly, because Oscar saying his lines to 3PO in such a way that I just giggled every time he spoke to me, because he was just being mean, but in a very funny way. So it's very good to have different characters. And I don't think anybody was bad enough. You know, Star Wars has got some villains in it, but they're sort of pantomime villains. You know, even the Emperor. You know,
he's like the ultimate evil. You know, he's evil.
But in such a way, it's like it's a bit silly.
Yeah.
And Ian McDermott, of course, is an adorable man, and a delight to be with. Very, very funny, and a really wonderful actor. So even seeing him through all the makeup, you know, it doesn't affect the way you feel about it. But sometimes audiences can get confused about. I remember Alec Guinness, wonderful Sir Alec, telling me the hate mail he got through the post in those days. You know, there was no internet, but he played Hitler in a production, and people got very confused that he might, as it were, be Adolf Hitler.
What?
Oh yeah, people can be convinced. I mean, now in an era of, what do we call it?
Instant opinion.
Well, now we got people making funny opinions about things.
Yeah.
I won't go there.
No, don't go there. Please don't. You're talking about Sir Alex Guinness, and you talk fondly of him in the book. You have great memories of the man, the actor. You share at one point an anecdote, the fact that in some ways he resented being so closely associated to Obi-Wan.
Yes.
And he had an amazing career, big career. Did you have the same kind of resentment towards C-3PO at one point in your career, maybe at the beginning of your journey?
Something like that, yes. But it was my choice to continue, and it was my choice to present 3PO the way I played him.
Yeah.
And then I think I say somewhere, you know, I was grateful that the audience liked what I did. But then, yeah, there was a time I thought I should be doing other things. I could have gone off and tried, but I didn't. So I have no right to. I remember saying at a party to host, "Is that so-and-so actor?" And she said, "Yeah, go and speak to him." So I went over and I said, "Hello, I'm so-and-so. I love what you do in that program." And he said, "I do other things, you know." Well, I have disliked that actor ever since, because it was a silly, rude thing to say. I went to praise him.
I think some actors, and I won't name names because, you know, but I had an interview an actor from another franchise in Star Trek, actually. And the second time we are path cross, you know, and it was a lot of resentment, and I didn't know why. I'm not the kind of, you know, fan, if you will, that are trying to immerse himself in some kind of the dynamic or getting an autograph. That's not my kind of stuff. But I felt resentment that was like toward me, but it wasn't about me. It was about the fandom. There was a stigma that was associated with his role. For some reason, he wasn't comfortable with the fact that it was so closely associated with character. And maybe he has other aspiration that he wasn't ever not able to get because of the closeness with his character. So I was wondering if that kind of dynamic happened to you in some ways, that you felt that you were stuck with C-3PO.
Kind of a little bit, but I would have had the choice to say no, I don't do this anymore. And going back to Sir Alec, if you look at his work, I mean, I don't know in his filmography how many movies he did. Then there was his stage work, and he was truly remarkable from playing, you know, all the parts in Kind Hearts and Coronets, including a female dowager and so on. And then if you look at him in a film called Tunes of Glory, where he is playing the most vicious Scottish sergeant major, I mean, so offensive, so horrible, so bullying, so intimidating. So it's a tragic film. And he is brilliant in it as this vicious soldier, totally different from this gentle old guru, Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I think must have been fairly easy, more, I was going to say easy to play, but harder to play because there wasn't much to hang on to. You know, gentle old man in a dressing gown, basically.
Yeah, but so much, he brought so much the character with so little premises. That's what's amazing. When you watch the first movies, all of you guys are, today people knows about Star Wars. But at the time, Star Wars didn't exist. It wasn't something, but you built upon something that wasn't there. That's quite amazing.
George Lucas's writing in the first one was really quite simple. You know, you had the stock characters, if you will, the princess, the hero, etc., and the guru that the hero has to meet on his journey, and all the temptations that, you know, Luke faced, or all his doubts that the guru helped him through. It was based on the tenets of storytelling, and it came out at a time when people were unknowingly ready for something like this. And my point in talking about Alec towards the end of his life is he died before he had a chance to realize, as I eventually did, what a brilliant gift he had given and had been received by the audiences. And the audiences loved him for that gift. They weren't worried that he was in Kind Hearts and Coroners, very nice, whatever. But the thing they loved him for was being Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he died before he came to that kind of sense of acquiescence, if you will.
In some ways, this character...
he died before he arrived at that sort of sense of acquiescence. And I believe if he lived a few years more, he would have realized what a gift he had given to the world and how grateful the world was.
You say that when J.J. Abrams called you and you said yes, do you want to only do the voice? No, I want to do the character. I want a new suit though. But you don't really talk about the modification that was made to it. You'd say it's in plastic, it was in fiber, but can you talk about what it was made of and what were the modification, the updates?
As I say, there was something curious about politics between Lucasfilm and Disney and whatever, that they weren't allowed to touch the original costume or see it or whatever. So they made one from scratch from photographs, which, I mean, just not the way.
That's strange, though. That's a strange situation.
But then they used the modern technique of 3D printing, which is made out of plastic filaments. And David Merriweather, one of the top technicians on the film, just devoted himself to really helping me out. And the main thing that changed was, if you think of 3PO's head, which have the big eyes and the kind of earrings on the side of his head, and the head is in two halves, and the earrings originally were these bolts that had to go through various holes that moved as you kind of tried to fix them, and therefore it took half an hour to put on the head. David looked at this and very quickly just redesigned it so that the whole thing came in two bits with one bolt on the top. The rest just hinged together. That took 6 seconds to put on, maybe 3 seconds. And it meant that during filming, I could put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, ad infinitum. And that made filming so much easier. I'm so grateful for that.
Was it lighter though? Was it like more?
It's still pretty heavy. So by the end of the day, you've been carrying a lot of weight around, and often on concrete floors and the unsprung floors in the studio. So, but again, the bits came off and on quite much more easily. So filming was much more comfortable, even out in the deserts of
Tunisia.
No, Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm forgetting the words. Marvelous time. Yeah, so ways of making things. The films are so inventive, and often employ such brilliant craftsmen. And I don't know where else they would work, really, but films require a whole team of artists to make all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's the perfect blend of art and technology, in my opinion, and we see that in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
I have to ask you a final question, because if I don't, people are gonna kill me, and I know that's the question they want me to ask you. If there's any possibility for you to come back, will you? Like in the flesh? I bet we didn't see the last from C-3PO. It's going to appear somewhere. R2D2 got his moment in The Mandalorian. You have to come back in some kind of... I don't know. I don't care. I want to see you back. So, but in the flesh, in the costume, will you see?
3PO's mind got wiped. My mind is slowly wiping away, but I have an open mind.
Okay.
And remember that I am very, very fond of 3PO.
Yes.
And I think he quite likes me.
Good. We'll end on that note. And I just want to add, and I want people to go back to buy the book. What that book made me realize, and I rewatched the movies just for this interview. The book made me see you behind the armor. That's the first thing that caught my mind when I started watching the movie. Oh, I see Anthony Daniels now. He's right there. He was right there all along. I didn't see him before reading the book. And that caught I was, oh yeah, that's what the party's talking about, the book. Yeah. So
I like that.
You like it?
I like that very much. And funnily enough, the opposite happens in the sound studio near here the other day. I had a new engineer and also somebody from Lucasfilm that I'd not worked with before. And I'm dressed like this in jeans and a shirt.
Yeah.
And because I'm being C-3PO, I stand like him and they both go, I can see the costume. And that's lovely.
Yeah.
3PO has made a big impact within the world of film. And I'm really glad about that. Yeah,
you should. It's an amazing, it's a role of a lifetime, a character from a lifetime. And it's gonna, yeah. And thank you for this moment with me. I think I'm gonna associate you with the movies now. Every time I rewatch it again, it's gonna be, yeah, that's Anthony Daniels behind. That's C-3PO. I like him, but I met the man also. So thank you very much.
I love the fact that you, as I think I said earlier, that you've read the book.
Yeah.
You've understood it. You haven't just read the words, you've understood it. And I'm grateful for that. Because you never know how you are interpreted throughout people's minds.
Well, when you write something, the writer dies afterwards, it's up to the readers to decide what they want to read and when they want to interpret it,
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, we all come to something with our own prejudices and our own views and so on. We have to be careful.
Yes, that's a great lesson. Wisdom from C-3PO and Anthony Daniels. That's great. Thank you, sir.
Oh, Benoit, it's been a real pleasure. Yes.
Well, likewise.
Good luck. Stay well. Get a vaccine. Yes.
In July.
Oh, really?